The message arrived during the night shift. Captain Lisa Morgan was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alert flashed across her screen. She set down her mug and read the words twice to make sure she understood them correctly. "Computer, wake the senior officers. Emergency meeting in 5 minutes," she said, her voice steady despite the news. The Zarkil Empire had destroyed 3 human colonies in the Centauri system. Millions dead. No survivors. No warning. Lisa stood in the briefing room as her officers filed in, their faces showing a mix of sleep and concern. Commander Daniel Wright, her tactical officer, was the first to speak after she shared the news. "How many ships in the Zarkil fleet?" he asked. "Intelligence reports at least 50 warships," Lisa replied. "Possibly more." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what 50 Zarkil warships meant. For the past century, the alien empire had expanded across the galaxy, conquering every civilization they encountered. No one had ever stopped them. No one had even slowed them down. "Where is the rest of our fleet?" asked Lieutenant Kelly Martinez, weapons specialist. Lisa brought up a star map on the main screen, scattered across 3 sectors. "The nearest battle group is 6 weeks away at maximum speed." Chief Engineer Samantha Ross shook her head. "The Zarkil will reach Earth in less than 3 weeks if they maintain their current course. Then we're the only ship in position to intercept them," Lisa said, zooming in on their location near the Arcturus Gateway, a narrow corridor of stable space that all ships needed to pass through to reach the Sol system. Science Officer Eric Peterson frowned. "The U.S. defiant against 50 Zarkil warships. Captain, with all due respect, those aren't odds. That's suicide." Lisa walked slowly around the table, looking at each of her officers. The Defiant was not an ordinary ship. It was a prototype, equipped with experimental shield technology and weapons that had never been tested in actual combat. Her crew of 120 was the best the United Earth Navy had to offer, but they were still just 120 humans against an empire that had conquered thousands of worlds. "We've received our orders directly from Fleet Command," she said. "We are to delay the Zarkil advance by any means necessary until reinforcements arrive." "Delay them with what?" Commander Wright asked. "Even with our new systems, we can't fight an entire alien armada." Lisa touched a control panel, and the image changed to show the Arcturus Gateway. "We don't need to defeat them. We just need to hold the line. The Gateway is a natural bottleneck. If we can disable even a few of their lead ships, it could slow their entire fleet." Navigator Ryan Cooper studied the map. "The Gateway has unusual gravitational patterns. We could use those to our advantage. The Defiant is more maneuverable than anything the Zarkil have." Lisa nodded. "That's exactly what I was thinking." Medical Officer Dr. Alan Garcia spoke up for the first time. "I should prepare sickbay for casualties." "Do what you need to do," Lisa said. "We have 12 hours before we reach the Gateway. I want all systems at maximum readiness." As her officers left to carry out their duties, Commander Wright stayed behind. "Permission to speak freely, Captain." "Always, Daniel." "The crew is scared." "Hell, I'm scared. No one has ever stopped the Zarkil. What makes you think we can?" Lisa looked out the viewport at the stars streaking by. "There's always a first time for everything. Sometimes, one ship in the right place can change history." Wright didn't look convinced, but he nodded. "I hope you're right." "So do I," Lisa whispered after he left. She returned to the bridge and took her place in the captain's chair. Around her, her crew worked at their stations, their movements efficient but tense. They all knew what waited for them at the Gateway. They all knew the odds. But as Lisa Morgan looked at the determination on their faces, she felt something else too. Pride. And maybe, just maybe, a sliver of hope. The U.S. Defiant raced toward its destiny, a single human ship preparing to hold the line against an empire that had never known defeat. The U.S. Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue light. The Arcturus Gateway loomed ahead, a swirling mass of purple and gold energy connecting 2 regions of space. Captain Lisa Morgan stared at the view screen, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. "Status report," she said. "All systems operational," Commander Wright replied from his station. "Weapons are charged and ready. Shields at 120%. Chief Engineer Ross added through the comm system. Her voice was strained. "I've pushed them beyond safe limits, but they'll hold. At least for a while." Lisa nodded. "Good work, Samantha." "Captain," Science Officer Peterson called out. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple ships approaching the gateway from the other side. Based on their energy signatures, they're definitely Zarkal." "How many?" Lisa asked. "I count 15 vessels. Appears to be their advance fleet." Lisa stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. "Lieutenant Martinez, prepare to load the special warheads we discussed. Navigator Cooper, position us near the largest gravity pocket in the gateway." "Yes, Captain," both officers replied in unison. The bridge crew worked in tense silence as the Defiant moved into position. Through the view screen, they could now see the first of the Zarkal ships emerging from the other side of the gateway. They were massive, at least 3 times the size of the Defiant, with sharp, blade-like hulls that seemed to cut through space itself. "They're scanning us," Peterson reported. "Let them look," Lisa said. "Communications, open a channel." Communications Officer Paul Bennett tapped his console. "Channel open, Captain." Lisa straightened her uniform. "This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the United Earth vessel U.S. Defiant. You are approaching sovereign human territory. We request that you state your intentions." The view screen flickered, and the image of an alien appeared. The Zarkal had pale blue skin and no hair. Its eyes were large and completely black, with no visible pupils. When it spoke, its thin lips barely moved. "I am Supreme Commander Vexnar of the Zarkal Empire," the alien said, its voice oddly flat. "Your species has been judged unworthy of continued independent existence. You will surrender your vessel and prepare to accept Zarkal rule. All resistance is futile and will result in your immediate destruction." Lisa kept her face neutral despite the cold anger building inside her. "We don't surrender to bullies, Commander Vexnar. The people of Earth would rather fight than live as slaves." The Zarkal's expression didn't change. "Then you will die, like all the others." The screen went dark. "They're powering weapons," Wright announced, his voice tight. "All hands, battle stations," Lisa ordered. "Evasive pattern Omega. Lieutenant Martinez, target their lid ship and fire when ready." The Defiant lurched as it moved, dancing through the gravitational eddies of the gateway. The Zarkal ships fired, their green energy beams slicing through space where the human ship had been moments before. "Firing," Martinez called out. The Defiant's experimental phase cannons released a concentrated beam of energy that struck the lead Zarkal ship directly in its weapon ports. To everyone's surprise, the alien vessel's shields failed immediately, and the beam cut deep into its hull. "Direct hit," Wright exclaimed. "Their forward weapons are disabled." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The new targeting systems work better than expected. Let's press our advantage while we can. The Defiant twisted and turned through the gateway, using the natural gravity anomalies as cover. 2 more Zarkal ships moved to intercept, their weapons charging. "Incoming fire," Peterson warned. "Braced for impact," Lisa shouted as she grabbed her chair. The bridge shook violently as an energy beam grazed their shields. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Shields holding at 82%, Ross reported from engineering. "But we can't take many more hits like that." Lisa studied the tactical display. The Zarkal were regrouping, adjusting their formation to trap the Defiant. "They didn't expect us to fight back," she said quietly. "Let's show them what one human ship can do." Supreme Commander Vexnar watched the small human ship dart between his vessels. His pale blue fingers dug into the arms of his command chair as another Zarkal warship reported severe damage. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his second-in-command. They are one ship. We are the Zarkil Empire. Their technology is different from other species we have conquered, the officer replied. And they fight. Strangely. Vexinar's black eyes narrowed. I want that ship destroyed. Now. Aboard the Defiant, Captain Lisa Morgan studied the debris field around them. 3 days had passed since their first battle at the gateway. The Zarkil had lost 4 ships, but more kept coming. The Defiant had escaped into the remains of a destroyed moon, using the floating rocks for cover. Status report, Lisa said, her voice rough from lack of sleep. Shields at 65%. Wright answered. Weapons are fully charged, but we're running low on torpedoes. Lisa nodded and turned to Science Officer Peterson. What have you learned from the scans of their ships? Eric Peterson looked up from his station with excitement in his tired eyes. Something interesting, Captain. Their shield technology uses a frequency pattern that repeats every 12.7 seconds. If we can time our weapons to hit at the exact moment the pattern resets, we could punch through their defenses more easily. Lisa finished for him. Good work, Eric. Get that information to Lieutenant Martinez. Captain, Communications Officer Bennett called out. I'm picking up signals between the Zarkil ships. They're splitting up to search the debris field. Lisa went to the tactical display. They're learning. We can't stay hidden for long. The ship's artificial intelligence, codenamed NOVA, spoke through the ship's speakers. Captain, I have analyzed the Zarkil search patterns. They are highly methodical and predictable. I suggest an alternative approach. I'm listening, NOVA, Lisa said. Instead of hiding, we could use multiple short faster-than-light jumps to appear and disappear at different points around the fleet. The Zarkil ships would fire at our previous location, while we strike from a new position. Commander Wright frowned. That's risky. Each jump requires a 15-second cooldown. We'd be vulnerable. But they wouldn't expect it, Lisa said, considering the plan. The Zarkil think in straight lines. They expect us to either fight or run, not both at once. Their discussion was interrupted when the ship suddenly shook. Proximity charges, Wright shouted. They're flooding the debris field with explosives. Lisa made her decision. NOVA's plan it is. Navigator Cooper, prepare for multiple short jumps. Martinez, target their command ship when we reappear. Yes, Captain, they both responded. The Defiant shot out from behind a large asteroid, its engines glowing bright blue. The nearest Zarkil ships immediately opened fire, but the human vessel vanished in a flash of light, only to reappear 2 kilometers behind them. Before the aliens could react, the Defiant fired directly at a weak point in the nearest warship's engines. The Zarkil vessel erupted in a series of explosions before going dark. The Defiant disappeared again as enemy weapons fired at its position. This continued for nearly an hour, the Defiant appearing, striking, and vanishing before the Zarkil could respond effectively. The aliens' formations fell into chaos as they tried to predict where the human ship would appear next. In his command ship, Vexnar slammed his fist against his chair. Impossible. No species fights like this. Back on the Defiant, the bridge crew allowed themselves small smiles as they watched the Zarkil fleet's confused movements. We've bought ourselves some time, Lisa said, but they'll adapt eventually. We need something more permanent. Lieutenant Martinez looked up from her station. Captain, I have an idea. It's dangerous, but it might give us an advantage. At this point, Lieutenant, Lisa said with a tired smile, dangerous is all we have left. 2 weeks had passed since the first encounter with the Zarkil fleet. The U.S. Defiant drifted quietly behind a large gas cloud, its systems powered down to avoid detection. Inside, the ship was a different story. Red emergency lights cast long shadows across the corridors. The air was stale and too warm. In sickbay, Dr. Alan Garcia moved between beds filled with injured crew members. His white coat was stained with blood, and dark circles hung under his eyes. He hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a time since the battles began. How is Commander Wright? Captain Lisa Morgan asked as she entered the medical bay. Dr. Garcia shook his head and led her to a bed where Daniel Wright lay unconscious, his chest wrapped in bandages. The internal bleeding has stopped, but he's still critical. I've done everything I can with our limited supplies. Lisa placed her hand gently on her friend's shoulder. Just yesterday, Wright had pushed her out of the way when part of the bridge ceiling collapsed during an attack. He had saved her life at the cost of his own safety. "Keep me updated," she said softly before leaving sickbay. The captain walked slowly through the ship, noting the damage. Panels hummed loose from walls, exposing wiring. Crew members nodded respectfully as she passed, but she could see the exhaustion and fear in their eyes. Everyone knew their situation was growing desperate. On the bridge, the remaining senior officers waited for her. Their morning briefing had become a ritual of survival. "Status report," Lisa said as she took her seat. "Shields at 31%. Chief Engineer Ross reported. Her uniform was dirty, and her hands were covered in burn marks from emergency repairs. I've had to shut down non-essential systems to conserve power." "Weapons?" Lisa asked. Lieutenant Martinez looked grim. "Main phase cannons are operational, but we're down to our last 12 torpedoes. Point defense systems are at 50%. Life support." "Stable for now," Science Officer Peterson replied. "But we're running low on medical supplies and food rations. We can last another 10 days at most." Lisa took a deep breath. "And the Zarkel?" "They've established a search grid," Navigator Cooper said, pointing to the tactical display. "They're methodically checking each sector. At their current rate, they'll find us within 48 hours." The bridge fell silent. They had fought incredible odds, destroying 7 Zarkel ships and damaging many more. But the alien fleet kept growing as reinforcements arrived. The Defiant was just one ship, and it was breaking. "Communications Officer Bennett," Lisa said after a moment. "Any word from Earth?" Paul Bennett looked up from his station, his face brightening slightly. "Yes, Captain. I managed to get a message through using the gas cloud to mask our signal. Fleet Command received our reports about the Zarkel weaknesses we've discovered." "And reinforcements?" Lisa asked, trying not to sound too hopeful. Bennett's small smile faded. "Still 3 weeks away. They're pushing their engines to the limit. But we'll be dead by then," Martinez finished bluntly. Lisa stood up and walked to the viewport. In the distance, she could see the faint lights of Zarkel ships scanning the area. They were like wolves circling a wounded animal. "We've held them off for 2 weeks, she said quietly. "That's 2 weeks they weren't attacking Earth. 2 weeks our fleet had to prepare." "So what now?" Ross asked. "Do we make a final stand? Go down fighting?" Before Lisa could answer, a young officer spoke up from the back of the bridge. It was Ensign Jack Howard, barely 22 years old. He had shown remarkable courage during the battles. "Permission to speak, Captain." "Go ahead, Ensign." "My family lives on Earth," Howard said, his voice steady despite his youth. "So do the families of most people on this ship. If we surrender now, everything we fought for means nothing. The Zarkel will destroy Earth just like they destroyed those colonies. But if we keep fighting, even if we die trying, we give Earth a chance." Lisa looked around at her crew. She saw the same determination in all their eyes, despite their exhaustion and fear. "No one's surrendering," she said firmly. "We still have a job to do." Captain Lisa Morgan called her remaining senior officers to the briefing room. The usual large table had been pushed against the wall to make space for a makeshift planning area. Star charts and technical diagrams covered every surface. "I have a plan," Lisa said without preamble. "It's not a good one." Chief Engineer Ross raised an eyebrow. "Those are the only kind we have left, Captain." A small smile crossed Lisa's tired face. "Fair point." She tapped a control, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a nearby star system with a large, unstable star at its center. "This is the Helios system," she explained. That star is in the early stages of going supernova. Normally, we'd stay far away from it. Science Officer Peterson studied the display with growing concern. Captain, that star is highly unstable. The radiation alone would be dangerous, even at a distance. Exactly, Lisa said. The Zarkil don't know these regions as well as we do. We're going to use that to our advantage. She expanded the hologram to show a tight cluster of asteroids near the star. We position the Defiant here and send out a distress signal. Make it look like we're badly damaged and trying to hide. Lieutenant Martinez frowned. So we use ourselves as bait. Yes, Lisa confirmed. When the Zarkil fleet follows us in, we trigger this. She pointed to a specific part of the star. Our sensors detected an enormous solar flare building in this region. If we hit it with enough energy at the right moment, we could trigger a massive eruption. Navigator Cooper whistled low. That would fry anything within 500,000 kilometers. Including us, Security Chief Victoria Hayes pointed out. Based on these readings, I calculate a 92% chance of mission failure, meaning death. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. They had all known it might come to this, but facing it directly was different. There's more, Lisa continued. Lieutenant Martinez, tell them what you discovered from the data we collected during our last engagement. Kelly Martinez stepped forward. We've analyzed the communication patterns between Zarkil ships. They don't just coordinate tactics, they're linked together somehow. All major commands flow from the flagship. When we damaged their communication arrays in previous battles, their ships became temporarily confused. They operate like a hive. Peterson said, his eyes widening with understanding. That's why they've been so coordinated but inflexible. Exactly, Lisa nodded. If we can destroy their flagship, Supreme Commander Vexnar's ship, we might not just stop this fleet. We could disrupt their entire command structure. Chief Engineer Ross crossed her arms. To pull this off, we'd need to reconfigure the phase drive to emit a directed energy pulse at the exact moment we trigger the solar flare. I've never even heard of anyone attempting something like this. Can it be done? Lisa asked simply. Samantha Ross thought for a moment, then gave a determined nod. Give me 12 hours. Lisa looked around at her officers. I won't order anyone to do this. The chances of survival are minimal at best. Communications Officer Bennett spoke up. I've sent messages to our families already, Captain, just in case. Lisa felt a lump in her throat but pushed past it. I've recorded my final report to Fleet Command. It includes commendations for every member of this crew. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Navigator Cooper straightened his shoulders. Better to go out with a bang than a whimper, right? If this works, Martins added, we'll be the first to ever stop the Zarkil. No one else has even come close. Lisa nodded, feeling a strange mixture of pride and sorrow. Then let's make it count. Prepare the ship. We execute the plan in 12 hours. As her officers left to complete their tasks, Lisa stayed behind, staring at the hologram of the unstable star. She thought of Earth, of all the worlds that had already fallen to the Zarkil, and of all those that would fall if they failed. One ship in the right place, she whispered to herself. The U.S. Defiant hung in space near the massive, unstable star. Its running lights were dimmed, and several hull plates had been intentionally left open to make the ship appear more damaged than it actually was. On the bridge, Captain Lisa Morgan watched the main view screen as the final preparations were completed. The orange-red star filled most of the view, its surface churning with violent storms of plasma and radiation. Distress signal is active, Communications Officer Bennett reported. Broadcasting on all frequencies the Zarkil have responded to in the past. Lisa nodded. Now we wait. They didn't have to wait long. Within 2 hours, the ship's sensors detected multiple vessels approaching their position. Zarkil ships detected, Science Officer Peterson announced. 5. No, 7 warships entering the system, including the flagship. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. Are they taking the bait? They're approaching cautiously, But yes, Peterson confirmed. They've detected our signal and are moving into position to surround us. All hands to battle stations, Lisa ordered calmly. This is it, people. Throughout the ship, crew members moved to their positions. Some touched personal items, photos, Lucky Charms, letters from home, before focusing on their duties. In engineering, Chief Engineer Ross made final adjustments to the modified phase drive, her hand steady despite the pressure. The solar flare is building exactly as predicted, Peterson reported from his station. We'll have our window in approximately 15 minutes. Lisa stood from her chair, open a channel to the Zarkel flagship. Bennett worked his console. Channel open. Captain. Lisa straightened her uniform and faced the screen. Supreme Commander Vexnar. This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the U.S. Defiant. The screen flickered, and the now familiar blue face of the Zarkel commander appeared. His black eyes showed no emotion, but his voice carried a hint of satisfaction. Captain Morgan, your game of hide-and-seek is over. Your ship is damaged and surrounded. You have nowhere to run. I'm not running, Lisa replied. Before you destroy us, I want to know something. In all your conquests, in all the worlds you've subjugated, has any species ever fought you like we have? For the first time, Vexnar seemed taken aback by the question. After a moment he answered, No, your tactics have been unpredictable. It is why you will be studied before your species is fully integrated into the Empire. Integrated? Is that what you call it when you wipe out entire colonies? Those who resist are eliminated. Those who accept Zarkel rule survive as servants. It is the natural order of things. The strong command, the weak obey. Lisa's eyes hardened. There's something you should know about humans, Commander. We don't believe in that natural order. We believe in fighting for what's ours, no matter the odds. She glanced at Peterson, who held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes until the solar flare reached its peak. You still have a choice, Lisa continued. Leave this system. Leave human space. We'll consider it a truce. Vexinar's face showed the first real emotion she had seen. Amusement. You are in no position to offer terms, human. Your single ship cannot stand against the might of the Zarkel Empire. That's where you're wrong, Lisa said quietly. Sometimes one ship is all it takes. She signaled to Bennett to cut the transmission. The screen returned to the view of the star and the approaching Zarkel ships. They're moving into optimal position, Navigator Cooper reported. Exactly where we want them. Weapons ready, Martins added. Modified torpedoes are armed and locked on the target coordinates. Lisa returned to her chair and gripped the armrests. Engineering, status of the phase drive modifications. Ready, Captain, Ross's voice came through the comm. On your mark. The bridge fell silent as everyone watched the enemy ships draw closer, unaware they were flying into a trap. The massive star pulsed ominously behind them, building toward the predicted solar eruption. 3 minutes to optimal firing position, Peterson said softly. Lisa took a deep breath. Take us in, Mr. Cooper. Full impulse power. The U.S. Defiant raced toward the unstable star, its engines pushing to maximum power. Behind it, the Zarkel ships followed, their weapons charging. Green energy beams cut through space, some missing the human vessel, others grazing its shields. Shields at 28%, Martinez reported as the ship shook from another hit. Stay on course, Lisa ordered, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Zarkel flagship was moving exactly where they needed it to be. Science Officer Peterson monitored the star's activity. Solar flare building to critical levels. 30 seconds until peak. Engineering, prepare to initiate the modified phase drive on my mark, Lisa said into the comm. Ready, Captain, Ross replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The bridge shook violently as a direct hit struck their port side. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hull breach on Deck 3. Hayes shouted. Emergency force fields activated. Main propulsion is hit, Cooper added. We're losing speed. Lisa's mind raced. They needed to reach the precise coordinates for their plan to work, but the ship was failing around them. "Divert all remaining power to engines," she ordered. "Everything we've got." The Defiant pushed forward, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. On the view screen, the churning surface of the star grew larger, its deadly radiation bathing the ship in orange light. "Zarkel flagship is directly behind us, pursuing at close range," Peterson reported. "They think we're making a run for it." "They're right where we want them," Lisa said grimly. "Position." "Almost there," Cooper replied, his hands dancing across his controls as he fought to keep the damaged ship on course. 10 seconds. 5. "We've reached the coordinates, Captain." Lisa took a deep breath. "Fire modified torpedoes. Full spread." Martinez pressed the launch control. "Torpedoes away." 6 specially modified torpedoes shot from the Defiant, but instead of targeting the Zarkel ships, they headed straight for a specific region of the star. "Torpedoes on target," Martinez confirmed. "Impact in 3, 2, 1. The torpedoes struck the star's surface exactly where the building's solar flare was reaching its peak. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the star's surface bulged outward, a massive eruption of plasma and energy bursting forth like an enormous fist. "Phase drive now," Lisa shouted. In engineering, Chief Engineer Ross activated the modified drive. The Defiant's experimental engine core glowed blue, then white, as it channeled energy in a way it was never designed to do. The ship vibrated as the modified drive created a focused energy wave that amplified the solar flare, directing it toward the Zarkel flagship. On the bridge, the view screen automatically darkened as the blinding light of the solar eruption filled space. The wave of superheated plasma expanded outward, engulfing the nearest Zarkel ships instantly. "Direct hit on the flagship," Peterson called out, his voice rising with excitement. Through the fading glare, they could see the Zarkel flagship breaking apart, its hull peeling away as the energy wave tore through it. The other alien ships near it suffered the same fate, disintegrating under the force of the artificially directed solar flare. Lisa allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before reality crashed back. Status of the Defiant. The ship lurched violently, throwing several crew members from their stations. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Emergency red lighting activated seconds later. "The phase drive modification has overloaded our power grid," Ross reported through a static-filled comm channel. "We have multiple system failures. Hull integrity is critical in several sections." "The shockwave is coming back toward us," Peterson warned, his face illuminated by the glow of his console. "Impact in 20 seconds. Lisa hit the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, abandon ship, get to the emergency survival pods. This is not a drill. Abandon ship." Crew members rushed through corridors as the ship groaned around them. Emergency hatches sealed off damaged sections automatically. Lisa stayed in her chair, watching the approaching wall of energy on the view screen. "Bridge crew, get to the pods." "That's an order." As her officers reluctantly left their stations, Lisa sent one final message to Earth, confirming the destruction of the Zarkel flagship. Whatever happened now, they had succeeded in their mission. 3 weeks later, a fleet of Earth ships arrived at the edge of the Helios system. Admiral Frank Carter stood on the bridge of the flagship, staring at the debris field that filled his view screen. The remains of more than 20 Zarkel warships floated in silent testament to an impossible battle. "Any sign of survivors?" he asked quietly. His sensor officer worked her console for a moment before looking up with wide eyes. "Sir, we're detecting a small emergency survival pod at the edge of the system. Life signs are present." Hope flared in the Admiral's chest. "Lock onto it and bring it aboard immediately, and get medical teams to the hangar bay." 30 minutes later, the Admiral walked into the medical bay. 2 figures sat on examination tables, being treated by doctors. One was a woman with short, dark hair streaked with gray. Though thin and exhausted, she still carried herself with unmistakable authority. The other was a younger woman with burn marks on her hands and arms. "Captain Morgan," the Admiral said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Chief Engineer Ross." Lisa Morgan looked up, her eyes tired but clear. "Admiral Carter, your timing could have been better." Despite the gravity of the situation, Carter found himself smiling. "How did you survive?" "The shockwave from that solar flare should have destroyed everything in the system." "It nearly did," Chief Engineer Ross said, wincing as a doctor applied medication to her burns. "I went back for the captain. Found her still on the bridge, unconscious. We barely made it to the last escape pod." "The rest of the crew?" Carter asked. Lisa's face grew solemn. "Most made it to the survival pods. We were separated during the shockwave." "Have your ships found any others?" "Search parties are spreading throughout the system now," Carter assured her. "If they're out there, we'll find them." He hesitated, then continued. "Captain, I need to know, did it work? Our long-range sensors detected a massive solar event, and when we arrived, we found the destroyed Zarkel ships. But it worked," Lisa confirmed. "We destroyed their flagship and disrupted their command network. The surviving Zarkel ships were in disarray. Some fled, others fought each other in confusion." Admiral Carter nodded slowly. "It's more than that, Captain. When news spread that someone had finally defeated a Zarkel fleet, everything changed. 3 other species they had conquered have risen up in rebellion. The Zarkel Empire is facing resistance on multiple fronts for the first time in their history." Lisa absorbed this information silently. All those lives lost, all that sacrifice, it had meant something after all. "There's more," Carter continued. "Earth has received communication from 5 previously unknown alien civilizations. They've been hiding from the Zarkel for centuries. Now they want to form an alliance with humanity." "Why us?" Ross asked, confused. "Because we were the first to stand up to the Zarkel and win," Carter replied simply. "You showed the galaxy it could be done." Lisa thought of her crew, of Commander Wright and all the others who had given their lives. "It wasn't me. It was the Defiant. The whole crew." "The official ceremony is next week," Carter said. "Earth wants to honor you and all the survivors." Lisa shook her head. "I don't need a ceremony. Just tell me one thing. Was it worth it? Did we buy enough time for Earth?" Carter placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did more than buy time, Captain. You changed everything. The Zarkel will never again conquer worlds with ease, because now everyone knows they can be beaten." 3 days later, as their medical ship approached Earth, Lisa stood at the viewport watching her home planet grow larger. Behind her, the survivors of the Defiant, 47 out of the original crew of 120, gathered silently. "We made it," Chief Engineer Ross said, joining her at the window. Lisa nodded, thinking of all those who hadn't. "One ship in the right place," she murmured. "What was that, Captain?" Lisa turned to face her crew, her family, with pride in her eyes. "One ship was all it took to hold the line."